Hey, hey.
What's up? How you doing,
Family
buddy?
matters. It's been a while.
I know, and the scary part was we were in the same town.
Yeah, I wasn't going to add that part because
Oh, I was make you feel better.
anyway, we did a lot of talking about the show. We never saw each other, but we were mentally connected, talking about the show. But anyway, Kevin, how are you doing? You're obviously in Colorado.
I am in Colorado for one more week, and then I fly home on Sunday, the 29th.
Very. The day
Oh,
after the day after USC loses to the Wisconsin Badgers, I think.
oh yeah, because that's gonna happen. But this week we are going to take down the mighty Michigan Wolverines, and
Oh, it's
then
Michigan USC, huh?
this weekend, yeah. And then
Well,
next weekend, we complete our sweep of the Midwest.
we have a bye, so we'll be ready for you with our backup quarterback. But anyway, how are things? How are things going in Colorado? How's things in Kevin's world?
My
People are
world is,
dying to know. They're jonesing to hear about Kevin Petersen.
I doubt that entirely. I am doing well. Thank you very much, Jay. Thank you for thanks for the whiz, baby.
What?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
So this is I actually woke up very early this morning. I'm actually excited about this show. So we took I think 2 weeks off or something,
Mhm.
and
Oh,
it's
yeah. Mhm.
we had several questions come through, and it's
What?
several kind of off the beaten track. I mean, hey, if you've heard the question again and you want to send in the same question, we will answer the questions over. Some of them I repeat, but we're going to play a little game. And this is, I will just tell you offhand, Kevin, that these are some of these questions. I mean, they're worthy questions, but I mean, I think
All right.
there's
Okay.
some questions that people are afraid to ask, and I mean, hiding behind a computer screen, I think this is a perfect opportunity to ask because we're not going to give names or numbers or anything. So we have 8 questions, and we're just going to play a game show. And so we're going to let Kevin pick. I think we'll have to break this up into 2 shows. I don't think we can do an 8-question show. But so we'll do 4 questions today, and you can pick 1 through 8, and we'll go accordingly. That way, we will never know, and maybe we'll get Kevin Petersen speechless.
Okay, let's so it's like stump
Spin the wheel. We'll spin the wheel.
Okay. What
Which
do you
one do
got?
you want to do? 1 through 8.
5.
Oh. Oh, God dang it. These are good. I mean,
All right.
whew, this one's gonna send chills. This is either gonna ruin us or send us viral.
Okay.
And this is obviously, and this is a question. This is something that I've dealt with. I've had numerous questions with families or conversations with families. I'm just so proud of whoever sent this in, and we will send a clip of Kevin answering this like we do for every question and answer. Kudos to just really asking. Question is, Kevin, what if my child dies from their addiction? How do I prepare myself for that possibility?
That's a great question.
Yeah. I mean, that goes right to the soul.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think the thing that people have to understand is, so generally I get that question when I say, let's set up some boundaries and let's set up some structure. And they're like, yeah, but what if he dies? And here's my response. We have to agree that the way he's living now, he's killing himself slowly. What you're offering him is a solution. Otherwise, this is what my dad said to me in 1990. He said, I am no longer willing to participate in your suicide. So that's the answer, is how do I prepare for this? Well, you as the parent have a choice. And it sucks. And I'm not saying it's okay. It sucks, okay? But your choice is to stand by and watch him slowly spiral into whatever, or to intervene on that and say, hey, I'm not okay with this. I'm not doing this. I love you and I want to offer you help. If you don't want help, that's your choice, but that's your choice. I need to know that I've done everything I can to help you. And if you choose against it, that's on you, not on me. Now, a lot of times families struggle with that. They really struggle with that, because they're like, well, yeah, but I need to be there. I mean, I've had families that buy their kids drugs, or allow them to do the drugs in the house or live in the basement and do the drugs because that makes them feel like it's safer.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I hear you, but I need you to understand you're participating in his death. And they don't like that, but it's true. And so I think I answered the question.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is where boundaries, though. I mean, it's kind of that. This is where it's kind of where boundaries to me are like a sharp sword, where you honestly can save someone's life. I know you can with clear, concise boundaries. The family, not really used to putting these healthy boundaries, will then ultimately fight, saying, like, how can I put these boundaries in and just kind of, I won't know what he's up to, or, like whatever, so I think it's, like I said, like if you're not willing to follow through on a boundary set forth, don't put that boundary out, because, there's nothing worse than saying it and then just, dissolving it a day later. But this is what you're talking about, is putting clear, concise boundaries in, saying, hey, we're no longer going to do this. Here's what we're willing to do if you want to help. If you're not, blah, 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 X, Y, and Z. Right?
There's nothing I can do. I can't force you. I was just having this conversation with a colleague, and she's like, I don't want to feel like we're forcing this person. I'm like, no. There's no forcing. This is what mom and dad are willing to pay for. And if you don't want that, that's okay. But then it's on you.
Yeah. You
got to start making the choices and the decisions, not playing the role of the victim and blaming other people. And then for the family, I think the family not enjoys, but they appreciate having a plan. Mm-hmm. What's the plan? Here's the plan. Well, they don't want the plan. Well, that's their choice. Yeah. But you have, no matter what, you can always say, well, we're still ready to pay. We're still ready to, we have a plan. And so that, to me, that's the important thing, is the family. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's been a lot of families that quietly are already ready for their death. I know my family was mentally prepared for, Yeah. Well, yeah. All right, we're off to a good start. What spin the wheel again there, Kevin? Taking 5 off the board. What would you like to do?
Let's do 8.
Uh-oh. Oh. Man, I think these are going to be all your favorites.
Uh-oh.
So this is a long email, but I've, for the sake, I actually put some time and energy into the show. So I put it down to a simple paragraph. So, Kevin, what if my child isn't the person I thought they were, even without their addiction? After getting sober, there's some fear around this. What happens if I don't recognize my own kid after getting sober?
Wow, that's a great question. So, that happens a lot, right? The person gets sober and they change their behavior and their personality. And, this is where our belief system, Jay, is that there's 2 things here. One, the family has to change also. Getting someone sober and expecting them to change, to behave a certain way that you want them to behave, is unrealistic. That's very codependent. Okay. So while we send our loved one to treatment, we ourselves have to engage in the treatment process. What was that? Did I hear a cat? Bird was about to jump through the screen. And
that is my friend Bernie trying to get on the show. Like everyone's trying to get on the show. Like sneaking into the studio.
So like what I do is I work with the families and I have a curriculum for the families, and I'm like, this is what you got to do. You got to read these books. You got to watch these videos. You got to watch these YouTubes. You got to listen to these podcasts. And it's all about you changing the way you're approaching the problem and addressing your stuff, not just saying that guy over there has a problem and he needs to fix it and everything will be okay. Now, let's assume that the family is doing their work and the person gets sober, but they're still not behaving well. I totally get it. Same boundaries exist. I'm sorry. I'm not willing to take treatment like that. I'm not willing to be spoken to like that. When you're ready to have a conversation with me that is, appropriate, boundaried and considerate and thoughtful and kind, rock on, sister. I'm in, but until then, just because you got sober doesn't mean you get the keys to the kingdom. You actually have to behave. There's three parts to it. You have to get sober. You have to start becoming self-supporting, and you have to start learning how to behave like an adult and treating people well. Yeah. And so I think that's the answer is, well, one, do your own work. Two, if that person is getting sober, and you may not recognize them, and that's okay. If you're doing your own work, you'll be like, oh, they're different than I thought they were going to be. That's fine. If they're behaving poorly, then you have the right to speak to that and say, I'm really happy you're sober, but I don't appreciate the way you're speaking to me, you're treating me. There's nothing wrong with that,
Some of the changes could be good when you're showing up on time, actually being an active part in the family. Number of good things. Like I get it sometimes. I think my family sometimes didn't recognize me when like I actually did what I said I was going to do. Like it was a healthy role model for nieces and nephews. I was an active brother, active son. So yeah, there's some good changes too. And sometimes you're not going to be recognized, but it's all good changes. But yeah, there's absolutely some changes that your family's going to get used to. But that all comes with everyone doing their own work, like Kevin said. So, yep. All right. 5 and 8 are off the board.
Okay, let's go to 3.
Oh, all right. Well, this is always a great reminder, and you always love this one. Great reminder. When should I stop financially supporting my child? How do I know if I'm enabling their addiction? I think the key here is, I think that second part is, I think everyone wants to we can kind of lump it into, we can add financial supporting, but how do parents really truly know if they're enabling their loved one's addiction? I think would be a good question.
You mean financially?
Yeah, I think you can go financially and maybe even if you wanted to go outside of finances too.
Okay. Well, so the way I set it up in my books and my trainings is there's 3 boundaries you need to hold as a family member. Okay. The first one is no drugs, no alcohol. And a boundary is worthless without an accountability function. So the accountability function there is breathalyzing and drug tests. And if they're clean, then, the world is their oyster. They're welcome to be part of the family. And every family is going to see that differently. The next one, which is going to answer your question, I think the money stuff, is I call it work or school. And the concept there is being self-supporting. If let's say you're 20 and you're in college, right? And you got sober, your job is to go to school and get good grades and take care of your business. So, and the accountability would be, showing your grades, not after the fact, like I did to my family, or coming up with stories and excuses is, here are my midterms. If you're in high school, it's like we can check the portal. A lot of times colleges do too. So, it's giving your parents access to that and saying, well, you're the ones paying for it. Therefore, you have a right to know how I'm doing. Now, I don't mean daily, management. That's not, I'm talking about more of like a weekly check-in to see how things are going. And that's a barometer of how are you doing? Are you underwater? Are you scared? Are you struggling? You have mental health issues? We're here. We're not using this to punish. We're using this to support.
That would not have been good for me. I'm just saying. I'm glad the internet was not around.
It would have changed my entire college experience, all 12 years.
I would have just unplugged all my parents' electronics. Be like, I don't know why the internet's not working, Mom.
Oh my God, dude! I'm telling you, I was just like, I don't know, give me a check, so now that's school. If they're out of school and you're like, well, okay, you just got done with treatment, and I know you're going to need some help getting on your feet. What I always tell people is, let's make a budget for a year. And every quarter, mom and dad can reduce their contributions and allow the person to get a job and make more money and get on, pay for their own car, pay for their own cell phone, pay for their rent, pay for their food. We might want to gradually do that, but we have a schedule, so everything's transparent, everything's up on the board. Like, this is what's coming next. There's no surprises. It's like, surprise, it's November 1st and it's time for you. We're not paying you anymore. And it's like, whoa, so they know. And then the last piece is, your mental health. It's taking care of yourself, going to a therapist, going to a psychiatrist, going to 12-step meetings or whatever it is you do, and that's about taking better care of yourself and allowing your family to see that you're changing who you are and what you are. So no drugs, no alcohol, got to go to work or got to go to school. And if it's work, you gotta have a budget. You got to show that, again, transparency.
Yeah.
And same thing with family behavior with the family. You got to be taking care of yourself. Just, it goes back to that earlier question. Just getting sober doesn't solve the problem. Yeah.
This is always a very slippery slope and I know there's many things that go into it, and I kind of going into a dicey situation, but let's talk real briefly about, you have, obviously you can see it firsthand. We all have seen it. Like, there's families with different financial means and so forth. And so I'm curious, and I deal with it, and I'll be listening to your response too. It's like, you always know, like, you have the person in early recovery that, sometimes the mom and dad are, depending on where their financial status is, like, when they want to buy a car, it's different levels of cars. When they want to buy clothes, it's, different shopping sprees are different to different people and stuff. And so what I've always tried to manage every client somewhat the same, where we talk about just get them what they need. And, you may spoil them with a shirt that they may want, but let's not go above and beyond. You know what I'm kind of getting at?
Yeah.
Where do you go with, even if a family has, the means or something, do you ever kind of just put plateaus in and kind of just say, hey, like, this is all he needs or she needs?
Yeah, absolutely. That's where the budget comes in, right? So let's say somebody's here at Jaywalker, right? I mean, let's just use that as an discussion. 90 days. And then let's say they choose to do another 90 days in our solutions program, right? So it's 180 days. Then, and the prices diminish, obviously. But when you start looking at aftercare is what we call it, right? Part of that is getting a job. Now, let's be honest, when somebody's coming out of treatment, they're not going to make six figures, okay? They're probably going to make $15 an hour, which is fine. And like you and I know, we call it a get well job, and because it's about, again, learning how to be an adult, showing up on time, doing your job, behaving, and then, becoming part of the team and working, doing the whole thing and getting a paycheck. And then, that paycheck is not intended for you to go on a shopping spree when somebody else is paying your bills, So we start to look at, okay, well, how much are you, this is where we teach them budgeting skills. How much are you making? I'm making $400 a week. Okay, great. That's fantastic. Let's talk about what's realistic. Does the sober living require you to pay into food budgets and that sort of thing? And, let's use this as an opportunity to learn how to be a grown-up. And that's how I go. Some families have the ability to continue in maybe a year-long progression and slowly work them down. Some don't, and that's okay. And so, it's like, well, we can pay for your sober living because, you and I both know sober living will never get covered by insurance. Just doesn't. So there's going to be a rent payment, let's call it. But then the clinical stuff will probably get covered by insurance on some level. But then we got to talk about food, and gas and the car and all that sort of stuff. And my thing is, let's make it realistic. Let's make it, those things are something they can pay for themselves instead of, living 100% off mom and dad.
Yeah.
And then slowly work our way down the street. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if anyone tells you that the sober living is covered by insurance, they're run from that facility. Just for the record, please. It's not. So
yeah. That's just not the truth.
All right. What else do you got? Numbers.
We got one more. Then we'll do more next week.
Yeah, let's do.
Well, it's 22 minutes. So we can. I don't want to bore people.
What?
I don't want to bore anybody.
You want to cut it?
Yeah, let's go next. These are good questions. I want to give them. I don't want to feel rushed. I love these. These are great questions.
Well, I like it. All right, let's stack them. Those are three great questions. This is just, I assume next week we're going to have millions and millions of followers. I mean, just because of these three questions. I mean, come on. Amazing. Keep the questions coming. I mean that with all my heart and soul. Keep reaching out. DMs, if you want to put them in the comments. Not a lot of people do it. I understand that. So they want to keep anonymous. But anyway, feel free to do it. My email is always in my links to all my social medias. And so you can go directly there or you can DM one of us, whatever it is. We love hearing for you. We love answering. One of these days, we're going to stump Kevin Petersen, and I'm going to be here in the front row waiting for it. So, Kevin, you're dismissed. Have a great week.
Fight on. Beat Michigan.